Dear Reddit, last night, I finally went on a date with this guy who's been asking me out for the past couple of months. He took me to a weight loss seminar. What's your what the ducking duck is this moment in your dating history? Alright. I'll post one. So I went on a couple dates with this girl and she was giving me some signs that she was ready to get a little physical. So I lean in close and try to kiss her. And she turns her face away from me. Stunned, I end up going home and thinking it was over between us. Later on, she contacts me and starts hinting we should go out again. I decide to go for it. Again. After getting some heavy hints and she pushes me away. So now I just ask, what's going on? She says, I am on dates with you so I don't feel like I'm undesirable. But I'm not attracted to you. She called me the next day and I told her I'm not dating people who make me feel undesirable. Then hang up. I remember a hot little gal in college who agreed to go out with me. She said she had a surprise for me. Christian revival meeting. Went out with a girl for a first date. She took me to a Kumdo lesson, which is a Korean sword fighting sport. I thought that was cool. But it was an advanced class and I made somewhat of a fool of myself, but all in good fun. Anyway, it turned out that she was bringing me there because she wanted me to be part of a documentary about foreigners in Korea. So my looking like a fool was broadcast nationwide. We then visited the Grandmaster's house for make-all and the film crew started interviewing me. They were basically focusing on my relationship with the girl I was going out with. They didn't seem to understand it was a first date. So here I am trying to answer awkward questions without embarrassing both of us on national television. I drove this fat girl to a weight loss seminar and she thought it was a date. On my first date with a guy off an internet dating site, he took us to the Scientology Museum in London. I thought original. Easy to find things to talk about / laugh at the craziness of. This could be fun. Then he proceeded to read every single piece of writing on every single exhibit. Ask the attendant very probing questions about how one goes about joining Scientology, etc. etc. And sounding slightly too interested to just be intrigued about a religion. Also, he was visibly sweating. Once we were done there, we went for a glass of wine and he told me he used to shoot heroin. I was out of there like a shot. When I was a teenager, I worked at a retail store in the mall and a guy who worked a few stores down would always come in and talk to me. He was super sweet and genuine and would randomly take me to lunch / bring me coffee and the like. It was nice to just have someone to talk to and who seemed genuinely interested in me and what I had to say. He asked me on a date a few times and I always declined. I don't like the idea of dating someone who I work with / work next to, just in case it goes sour. After a month or two, I finally agreed to go on a date with him. Because good guys are hard to find. I couldn't just let him pass by. He picks me up at my house and on our way to dinner we get into a car accident. The driver's side was T-boned pretty badly and we ended up having to go to the hospital where he contacted his roommate, who then contacted my date's girlfriend. After my freshman year of college, I met a guy on OkCupid and we went to get dinner at Fridays as our first date. Offered to give me a ride. But I said no. He was a couple years older, well dressed, and started talking about how he'd started his own business after college and it was going well. Good for him. Bragging a bit, but hey, that's an accomplishment. So after we order, he says, let's play a game. We'll each take out our wallets and compare what's in them. Wasn't a joke. Literally started showing me his credit cards and bragging about the high limits. Ending with, clearly you can't afford to pay for this dinner. But don't worry, I can cover you. I was pissed and protested, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. So as we leave, he says he wants to show me his car. Unfortunately, it was before mine in the lot, so I had to walk by it. It was a white, windowless serial killer van. He begged me to duck him in it. Right there in the Fridays parking lot. I was pretty glad I drove separately. Setting. Blind date at a sushi restaurant. I was 24. He was 19. We already had nothing to talk about, so I told him this story. I had gone to the local GameStop for the sole reason to talk to the guy behind the counter. I got in line, had some small talk, and as I was getting my receipt, I asked him, "Hey, are you seeing anyone?" His reply, "Me? I'm gay." I was mortified that my gaydar failed me, so I just gave him a high five and left. I was still shocked and cried in my car. About 5 minutes after I finished that story, I look over to the 8-person group beside us. I caught the eye of the very same gay guy I hit on at GameStop. We waved to each other. He was with his boyfriend. Whoa. One of the people I dated took me to her parents' house for our first date, wherein I listened to her dad talk for an hour about this deer that he was so inept at killing it took 4 bullets to finally put down. It's times like those I wish I had a jetpack. Oh no. That would be so hilarious if I wouldn't feel bad for you. The only ducked up moment was when my date was on the phone for quite a while talking to her friends that I didn't know. It was quite boring. Obviously. It even got to the point that the old lady who had coffee next to our table in the restaurant told me that back in her day, the guys would have not accepted that behavior from their dates. Not that I want to relive the old days, but I heeded her advice. When I was young and stupid, I dated a guy with a temper. He would get mad about something stupid like saying goodbye too quickly on the phone. Pick a fight and we'd break up. He would call a day or two later and we would make up. After a few months I had figured out the cycle and I was fed up. So, when he picked a fight as usual, I ended it and then didn't take him back. While we were dating, I had become close with his sisters and his mom loved me. We had scheduled a girls' lunch and his sister begged me to go. I finally said yes and went. Everything was fine and I had a great time. The whole lunch was probably 2 hours long. At the end I walked to their car with them and the mom grabbed me and said, "Hear him." Out of the car comes her son, WTF, who was trying to explain to me why we should be together. I just walked past him to my car as he ran after me. He ended up picking a fight with me because it was my fault we broke up and I didn't even call him so he could fix it. Then he threw rocks at my car as I drove away. I wish I had a picture of what my face looked like when he came out of that car. I never spoke to him again and never accepted another invitation from his family. First date and he took me to a strip club. There was a guy who had been asking me to hang out for a while and I finally said yes. He wanted to hang out at his house with his roommates, so I went. He took me into the basement where there was a dirty mattress on the floor and nothing else. I ran. To this day I have no idea what it was about, but I ran and never told anyone about it until now. I took a girl out on a first date to see Sucker Punch. I didn't get a second date. I went on a date with a guy that I met online. He told me to dress nice and that he was going to take me out for dinner. He took me to Subway. Ordered a foot-long teriyaki chicken sub. He looked at me and said, "I hope you like teriyaki chicken." We shared the sub in his car. Safe to say there was no second date. When I was a freshman in high school, I dated a guy for 2 weeks. My parents were really excited and wanted to meet him. So they took us, the whole family, me and my boyfriend, to a Johnny Cash impersonator playing in our town's theater, and then to dinner at Sherry's. The audience was almost entirely old people, and at the time it was so ducking awkward. It's still ducking awkward today. Epilogue. We broke up after 2 weeks. A year later, I came out as a lesbian. He is studying fashion design in Italy. Last time I checked. Went to pick a girl up at her house after meeting on a dating website. She seemed significantly larger than her photo, but only in the lower abdominal region. This is when I realized that she had failed to mention that she was pregnant. This may get buried. However, it was an extremely "what the ducking duck is this?" moment. I think it was about my 5th date with this guy. In passing on our 4th date I had mentioned something about my flat not having a full-sized bathtub. For our 5th date I had agreed to a pizza and movies night at his place. The night was going okay. He was a little bit overly affectionate, always having to hold my hand, etc. and then he told me he had to quickly do something in the other end of his house. Okay. About 20 minutes later he comes back and tells me to follow him to the bathroom. He has drawn me a bath. Lip-ducking candles and clashing scents of aroma oils filled my nostrils. I know that it was in theory a nice gesture, but I felt completely panicked. To me, it was a very full-on act so early in a courtship. Anyway, I had to get it. He left the room, and I sat there awkwardly in this bath for 15 minutes and wanted to die the whole time. TLDR guy drew me a bath. Had to get in. A guy I was totally into moved pretty far away. We were interested in each other though. Spoke a lot, and eventually he decided to visit me for a weekend. I imagined romantic things happening. He wanted to go wallpaper shopping. And so it was that our first date was in the home furnishings department of John Lewis. He got lots of very ugly samples. Then we went to Habitat, where he looked at lamps and said the word rimming very loudly. Within 5 years we were married. I would take all of you out and do none of these bad things. Another goddamn pyramid scheme. They keep changing the lingo and the products, but it's always the same. Recruit people to sell to be under your team. What a crock. I have had a few friends who kept trying to pull me in. A few got so aggressive I had to block them on Facebook. Like the top commenter said, "You're a saint for sitting through that." I had a guy take me to a beer and Christ thing. He was uber Catholic and thought I could benefit from letting Christ into my cold Jewish heart. So I go. I'm open-minded. I'm only half Jewish and have always been interested in other religions. It was going okay until the priest, the speaker of the night, told us a hypothetical tale of our brother who is paralyzed. We have the ability to cure him with stem cells. He will walk as soon as the transaction is complete. How many of you here would purchase these stem cells and allow your brother to walk again? My hand shoots up. I look around the room. Nothing. No hands. I then notice everybody staring at me, including my date and the priest. I was blessed out like nobody's business and was told I was an embarrassment to my date. Good times.